Leo doesn't ask permission to walk into a room. He simply arrives, takes up space, and something in the atmosphere shifts. Not always because of noise or spectacle, but because there's something in the way Leo shows up that signals presence, a sense that this person is truly there, fully committed to the moment, to what they feel, to what they want to build. That is the core energy of Leo, the need to move from the inside out, to make sure that whatever they do carries something personal, something genuine, something from the heart. Leo is the fifth sign of the zodiac. It belongs to the fire element, which means its engine runs on passion, initiative, and the drive to create and express. But unlike Aries, which is the fire that ignites, or Sagittarius, which is the fire that roams, Leo is fixed fire. That means its energy doesn't just spark, it sustains. Leo doesn't light a flame and walk away. It tends that flame, feeds it, shapes it into something that lasts. There's a willpower in Leo that can be extraordinary when it's pointed at something that truly matters. The ruling planet is the sun, and that's not a small detail. The sun is the center of the solar system, the source of light and energy. Not in the sense that Leo believes the entire world revolves around them, but in the sense that Leo needs a center of its own. A solid core of identity, a clear sense of who they are and what they want to express. When that center is strong, Leo can be generous, warm, creative, and genuinely inspiring. When that center becomes unstable, when Leo isn't sure who they are, or when they rely too heavily on how others see them to feel whole, that's when their deepest challenges surface. Because the energy of Leo isn't simply about needing attention, even though that tends to be the first thing people say about this sign. It's something more specific and more human than that. It's the need to be truly seen, to have what they do matter, to have what they feel acknowledged, to know that their presence has value. And honestly, most people understand that on some level. What sets Leo apart is that this need is more conscious, more central, more tied to their sense of self. In love, Leo can be one of the most devoted signs in the zodiac. They love with generosity, with enthusiasm, with a kind of romanticism that isn't performed but genuine. They enjoy celebrating their partner, surprising them, creating moments worth remembering. Leo doesn't love quietly or from the sidelines. When they care about someone, they show it, and they expect the same in return. They need to feel that the other person truly sees them, values them, that there's mutual admiration, and not just comfortable routine. In a relationship where they feel invisible, overlooked, or underappreciated, Leo may begin to withdraw emotionally or react with more intensity than the situation calls for, searching for that feeling of mattering to someone again. What Leo needs to learn in love isn't to dial back what they feel, but to tell the difference between wanting to be seen and needing constant validation. There's a real distinction between wanting the person you love to recognize your worth and needing their approval in every moment, just to feel like enough. The first is healthy. The second can become a trap that keeps Leo from connecting freely and securely. In friendship, Leo tends to be loyal, protective, and enthusiastic. This is the kind of friend who shows up when there's something to celebrate, who cheers you on with real excitement, and who, when their own self-esteem is in a good place, feels no envy at all toward someone else's success. If anything, Leo can be one of the loudest voices in the room celebrating a friend's win. But that loyalty often comes with an unspoken condition. Leo needs to feel that the friendship is mutual, that they're not giving more than they're receiving, that their presence matters in that relationship too. When they feel sidelined or undervalued, they may pull back with a quiet pride, that doesn't always get explained out loud. At work, Leo often has a natural capacity for leadership, not necessarily because they want to be in charge for its own sake, but because they carry an energy that moves people, a confidence that can be contagious, and a vision that tends to be clear and driven by genuine passion. They thrive in environments where they can bring something of their own, where there's space for creativity, where their voice has room to exist. They don't do well in settings where they feel dimmed, where they can't connect personally with what they're doing, or where the dynamic consistently makes them invisible. The challenge at work isn't a lack of ability. It's the relationship with recognition. Leo can sustain enormous effort when they feel that what they're building has meaning and that the effort is being noticed. But when they work hard for a long stretch without receiving any form of acknowledgement, motivation can quietly start to erode in ways that Leo itself doesn't always fully understand. Learning to value their own process without depending on external applause is one of their most important areas of growth, and also one of the hardest, because their energy naturally moves outward and longs to have that outward movement reflected back. In communication, Leo can be expressive, magnetic, and direct. They speak with conviction, with a certain natural brightness, with a confidence that can sometimes read as arrogance, but in many cases is simply self-assurance. The challenge shows up when something touches their pride. When they feel criticized, underestimated, or ignored, they can become defensive in a way that closes off the conversation. Not because they don't want to listen, but because their sense of dignity is activated, and in that moment, listening feels, on some unconscious level, like giving ground. What Leo can develop over time is the ability to hear criticism without feeling like their worth as a person is under attack. Those are two very different things. A criticism speaks to a behavior or a decision. It doesn't speak to who someone is at their core. When Leo can hold that distinction clearly, their communication becomes far richer and their relationships go much deeper, because they're able to show vulnerability without feeling like they're losing something. When it comes to conflict, Leo tends to stand their ground with force. They don't back down easily, but they may withdraw when they feel their dignity has been wounded in a way they can't process in the moment. That can sometimes make them seem distant or rigid, when really they're working through something that hit harder than they're showing. Leo doesn't always put their hurt on display right away. Pride works like a kind of armor, and if that armor isn't examined consciously over time, it can end up keeping away the very people who care about them most. The difference between Leo in balance and Leo under pressure is striking. In balance, Leo can be a warm, generous, creative, and genuinely uplifting presence. They have the capacity to make others feel truly seen, to lead without needing to overshadow anyone, to celebrate someone else's light without feeling like it diminishes their own. Under pressure, that same energy can turn demanding, overly sensitive, pride-driven in ways that close inward, or far too dependent on outside opinions to feel stable. The key for Leo is understanding that self-worth isn't something that comes from the outside. It can certainly be strengthened by recognition, but if it only exists when there's applause, it's fragile. Leo's most mature and powerful version of confidence comes from knowing that their value doesn't depend on everyone seeing it, celebrating it, or understanding what they bring. It comes from a quieter, more grounded trust in themselves that doesn't need to be confirmed at every turn. Leo teaches something worth sitting with, that showing up isn't vanity, that claiming your own space isn't arrogance, that loving with intensity, creating with a personal signature, and living from the heart are real and valid ways of being in the world. This energy is an invitation to stop hiding, to stop making yourself smaller so others feel comfortable, to stop dimming your own light out of fear of shining too brightly. But Leo also teaches something subtler, that the most lasting kind of brightness isn't the kind that needs to be the most intense light in the room. It's the kind that illuminates without needing to compare. Leo, at its fullest, doesn't compete with anyone else's light, because it knows its own is enough.